You can draw this with your finger. You heard me right. During this tutorial, we won't be using an Apple Pencil, but we will be drawing the scene using our finger. Now, of course, if you're scared, if you're not up to the challenge, then feel free to go and grab your Apple Pencil, but I would consider that cheating a little bit. Let's just go through this struggle together. During this Procreate tutorial, I will guide you through every single step, so once you have reached the end of the video, you will have a lovely landscape. We will be using free Procreate brushes only, just a monoline brush and a soft brush, and I have linked a color palette in the description, totally free, with all the colors we'll be using during this tutorial. The canvas is set to 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels and the color profile is set to sRGB. Now let's go and grab our finger and get started. First, we are going to grab the monoline brush. You can find it under calligraphy. For the color, we are going to use this first color in the second row of the color palette. Now the opacity of this brush is at 100% and we are going to set the size to 100% as well. And now we are going to make a horizontal line in the center of our canvas, just like this. Then hold your finger in place so you get this nice straight line, and then tap your other finger on the screen to make sure that you get a perfectly horizontal line. Now, if your brush stroke isn't as thick as mine, then it might be that you have been tweaking your brush. Then just go to the monoline brush, tap it, and then here in the section about this brush, you can reset all the settings. And that will make your brush look the same as mine. Then tap done. And then let's go to the move and transform tool. That's the little arrow over here. Right over here, we are going to turn off snapping and then set it to freeform. And we are going to make this line just a little bit thicker by dragging this handle to about here. Then we are going to make sure that it's centered. So we are going to turn snapping back on and then you can move it around. And then you'll see that vertical orange line. Let's move it down until that underside of our line is, well, right in the horizontal center. Then we'll go to the layer menu and we are going to set this layer to alpha lock. You can do that by sliding to the right with 2 fingers, or you can just tap the layer and turn alpha lock on through the menu. Then we'll grab a different color. We'll go for the second color in the second row. And then we'll go to the selection tool. That's the S shape ribbon. We'll set it to rectangle and we'll turn on color fill. Now we'll drag from the lower left area. And we'll drag up until half of that line is covered. And then we'll tap the S shape ribbon again. Now we are going to make a new layer by going to the layer menu, the 2 little squares, then tap the plus for a new layer and drag this one underneath the other layer. Now for the color, we are going to grab this first color in the first row and we'll go back to the selection tool. We'll keep color fill turned on and now we'll switch to freehand. And we are going to make a triangular shape. We are going to start about here, tap until you see that circle. Then we'll go up here, tap again. Then we'll tap over here. And then we'll close our selection by tapping this circle again. Then tap the S shape ribbon again to get out of that menu. And this will be our first mountain. Now to change it a little bit, you can just go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow. And over here, make sure that you have it set to bicubic. That way, when you transform it, you don't get those pixelated jagged edges. Let's turn off snapping. And let's set it to distort. Now you can drag these corners to change the look of that triangle a little bit. Let's go for a shape like this. Now let's make a new layer on top of this one by tapping the plus and then set this new layer to clipping mask. Now the shape that we are going to make on this layer will only show up on our triangle. Let's grab a different color, the third one in the first row, and let's make a selection again. Let's zoom in a little bit and tap just above that peak. Then we'll tap over here and then move around and close that selection. And we'll go back to the layer menu and we'll turn on alpha lock on both of these layers. You can either drag to the right or just tap the layers and turn on alpha lock. Let's go to the bottom one, and for the brush, we will be going to the airbrushing brushes and use the soft brush. And for the color, we'll be using the second color in the first row. Let's zoom out again. Now the opacity of this brush is set to 60% and the size is set to 50%. And now let's tap just underneath that triangle 3 times to create a nice gradient here. Then we'll move to layer 3 and we'll switch to the 4th color in the first row. And we'll set the size to 25%. Now again, tap just underneath. You can make the brush a little bit bigger as well. 50% again, and tap below that mountain. Now let's go ahead and make another mountain. I'm happy with the way this looks right now, so let's merge these 2 layers by pinching them together and then make a new layer on top by tapping the plus. For the color, we'll go to that first color and the first row again, and we'll use the selection tool again. We'll start over here, then we'll go up and then back down over here and close the selection. Again, you can go to the move tool, that little arrow, set it to distort, and move the handles around to change the shape of this little mountain. Then let's make a new layer on top again by tapping the plus, set this to clipping mask, and switch to the other color, the 3rd color in the first row. Again, we'll go to the selection tool, we'll zoom in a little bit, and first we'll tap here, then over here, then we'll go to the left, and then we'll close the selection. Now let's make another mountain right away. Let's zoom out a little bit, and we'll make a new layer by tapping the plus, and we'll drag that one underneath the other mountains. Let's go to the selection tool again, tap over here, then go up and back down over here and close the selection. Go to the move and transform tool if you need to adjust it a little bit by dragging the handles. And then let's go add gradients to these layers. Make sure that you turn on alpha lock on all of these layers. Tap the layers, turn on alpha lock. Let's start with this layer, layer 3. Let's grab the second color in the first row. And then just tap underneath here 3 times. Looks nice. Then we'll go to layer 4. We'll switch to the 4th color in the first row. And again, we'll tap right here underneath 4 times this time. Then to layer 5. And again, make some taps, perhaps 3. And now we have these 3 blue pyramids. We can merge these layers, layer 4 and 3, by pinching them together. And then let's go to layer 2 again. We'll go to the selection tool again, and we'll turn off color fill. I would like to remove some parts of this mountain to make it look more mountainy. Let's start over here, then tap here, then go to the left a little bit, and make this like a little bit of a zigzaggy pattern. Then go back up and close the selection, and then you can swipe with 3 fingers to remove that area. Then we'll go to the selection tool again and do the same on the left side. Close the selection, use the 3-finger swipe, and let's do the same for the smaller mountain over here. That's layer 3. Go to the selection tool, start here at the top, then go down and make it look more jagged. Close the selection, use the 3-finger swipe, and go back to the selection tool for the other side. And if the 3-finger swipe isn't working for you, you can also just go to the layer, tap it, and then use clear. Then finally, let's go to layer 5, move over there, use the selection tool again, and make another jagged selection. Use the 3-finger swipe, go to the selection tool again for the other side, close the selection, and clear the area. Next, we are going to add some snow to our peaks. Let's make a new layer on top of layer 2 first by tapping the plus, and we'll set it to clipping mask. Then we'll go to the selection tool again, and now we are going to make a zigzaggy pattern. And over here, we'll touch that line, zigzag back up, then go around the peak so that the entire peak is selected, but the underside is jagged like this. Then we'll go and use the soft brush again, and for the color, we are going to use this 5th color in the first row. And then just tap here at the top twice to make it lighter. Then we'll go and add a layer to layer 3 as well. So we'll tap the plus, then select the layer and use clipping mask. And then we are going to make a new selection. So tap the S-shaped ribbon twice. And then we'll make a zigzaggy pattern over here. Go around the peak, grab the brush, and tap twice here. Then on to layer 5, tap the layer, then tap the plus, tap the new layer and set it to clipping mask. Then go back to the selection tool by tapping it twice and make a zigzaggy pattern over here as well. Then grab the brush and tap that area twice. And then tap the S-shaped ribbon again. So here we have our lovely mountains. Now let's go and create some trees. Once you are happy with your mountains, you can actually just merge them all together by pinching them. Just make sure that you keep this line on a separate layer. Now let's tap the plus for a new layer. And for the brush, let's go grab the monoline brush again under calligraphy. Then for the color, let's grab this 3rd color in the 2nd row. And now let's draw an oval. You can hold your pen in place to make it snap to a quick shape like this, and then drag in the color to fill your shape. Now to adjust it a little bit, you can go to the magic wand over here, then to Liquify, set it to push, turn up the pressure, but turn down the distortion and the momentum. And let's set the size to 40%. Then let's push this area up a little bit and this area down. So we're not touching the oval itself, but we are on the outsides. Squishing it just a little bit. Once you have this shape, go to the layer, tap it and turn on alpha lock. And then let's go to the selection tool again. This time we'll set it to a rectangle and we are going to start over here. And then we'll go up until we cover half of our oval. Then let's go grab this 4th color in the 2nd row. And for the brush, we'll go back to the soft brush under airbrushing. We're going to set the size to 25% and we'll tap here near the bottom to add a little bit of a gradient to the right side. Then tap the S-shaped ribbon to get out of the menu. And now we have this little tree. Let's move it around by going to the arrow tool. And let's place it over here. Then tap the arrow again. And now you can drag down with 3 fingers and select duplicate. Now we have another oval, so we don't have to draw it all over again. Just make sure that you have it set to bicubic over here and set to uniform. Now you can resize this oval. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Place one over here. Tap the arrow and drag down with 3 fingers to duplicate it again. Make it a little bit smaller. Place one over here. Tap the arrow again. Drag down with 3 fingers, duplicate it. And let's put a bigger one over here. tap the arrow, then drag down with 3 fingers again, move this around, and then let's set it to freeform over here. Now we can drag it down and make a little bit of a round tree here, a round tree crown. Then select uniform again. Let's move this around. Let's place one over here, a small one. Tap the arrow again, drag down with 3 fingers and duplicate it. And we are going to do this until we have enough of these little trees. And while we are doing this, if this is the first time you're following a Procreate tutorial here, then make sure to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any of the other tutorials. And if you don't just want to draw with your finger, if you want to learn more about drawing in Procreate with an Apple Pencil, then go and check out my Patreon page where you'll find a lot more Procreate tutorials. There are actually more than 100 tutorials there. Now let's just move this one a little bit, and then let's duplicate this one by swiping down with 3 fingers. And then let's move this one over here. And just make sure that this one doesn't touch the other tree crowns. Give it a little bit of space. Now that we have all these tree crowns, let's merge all of these layers by pinching them together. And let's make a new layer on top by tapping the plus. Then for the color, we are going to grab this color over here, the 5th color in the 2nd row. And we are going to grab the selection tool again. Set it to freehand and turn on color fill. Now we are going to make a triangular shape like this, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Now tap the selection tool again, and then again, then set it to rectangle and turn off color fill, and select that lower area so we can cut off that lower part and make it horizontal. Swipe with 3 fingers, and then let's go to the layer menu, turn on alpha lock on this layer, and then let's make a selection again. Still have it set to rectangle and select that right area, just that right half. Then go to the brushes, make sure that you're using the soft brush, and for the color, use the 6th color in the 2nd row, and then just tap under here to make a little bit of a gradient, and then tap the selection tool again. Now let's move this around by going to the Move and Transform tool. And let's place one over here. Then tap the arrow, drag down with 3 fingers and duplicate it. And randomly place some of these trees. Make some a little bit smaller, some bigger. We're using the same technique, so every time tap with 3, drag down. So every time, drag down with 3 fingers to duplicate the shape, and then move it around, transform it. You can go to freeform to make one a little bit thinner, for example. Until we have a nice distribution of these trees. Now let's tap the arrow and let's move this one behind the other tree. So let's drag it down like this. And now we are going to make some trees that are behind the lighter trees, the round ones. Drag down with 3 fingers, tap duplicate, set it to freeform over here to make some different shapes. So we get a nice variety of pine trees here. And tap the arrow again. I think we have a nice distribution here. We can merge these layers over here and these on top. And now we are going to make the tree trunks. Let's tap the plus for a new layer and drag it underneath the others. And to make sure that all our tree trunks will be vertical, we'll go to the wrench over here, then to canvas. Then we'll turn on drawing guide and then go to Edit Drawing Guide. Make sure that it's set to 2D grid and turn on Assisted Drawing. Now when you have Assisted Drawing turned on while you have the 2D grid, you will only be able to draw vertical and horizontal lines following that grid. So in this case, that's very handy. Let's tap Done, and then go to the wrench and turn off the drawing guide. Now you might not be seeing the drawing guide anymore, but it's still active. When you go to the layer menu and you look at this new layer, you see that it's assisted. And that means that we still have that vertical, horizontal drawing magic going on here. So let's go grab a brush. Let's go and use the monoline brush again. And for the color, we are going to use this first color in the third row. Let's set the size of the brush to 50%. And now let's make some tree trunks in the center of these trees. Now take some guesswork since your finger covers the screen. But fortunately we have the undo option. Just tap with 2 fingers on the screen and you'll undo your stroke. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for 30%. And then let's move to a different color. Let's grab the second color in the third row. And then let's set the size of the brush to 65% for these tree trunks. Now let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 50% for these smaller trees. And now finally, let's add some apples to some of these trees. Let's make a layer on top of layer 3 over here. Tap the plus. And for the color, we'll grab this third color in the third row. And now for the brush, let's go to the monoline brush again. And to make sure that we will only get like circles and not strokes, let's go to the brush settings and then to stroke path and turn up the spacing. This way, it'll be easier to just make dots. Tap Done and set the size of the brush to 100%. And I'll just tap on these trees to add a few simple apples. Perhaps one over here and some apples here. Now we have all of the elements. Let's make a reflection. Let's zoom out a little bit, then go to the layer menu and let's group all of these layers by sliding to the right on all of the layers except for that line that we created in the beginning. Now tap group, close the group by using that arrow and slide to the left and duplicate this group. Now go to the bottom group, tap it and use flatten. Then we'll go to the move and transform tool again, the arrow. Go to snapping and turn on magnetics and then use flip vertical. Then we'll move this down, and since we have magnetics turned on, it's magnetically pulled to our other mountain and we can easily drag it down to about here. Then go to the layer menu by tapping the 2 little squares and then tap the N. Scroll the opacity slider to 40% like this. Tap the layer menu again. And there you have your landscape. Yay for finger, we did it! I hope you have enjoyed the challenge of creating something by just using your finger on your iPad. I thought it was a fun little challenge and I think it turned out pretty well. By using some smart little tricks in Procreate, you can definitely create drawings without an Apple Pencil. Now don't forget to share your work, not just with your friends and family, but also on social media. If you are sharing it on Instagram, then don't forget to tag me in the image, not just in the description, because that way I will be able to find your work and perhaps we'll see it in the next video. If you have enjoyed this video, then don't hesitate to hit that thumbs up and support the channel. It really helps. I would like to thank you for watching and I will see you next time.